Zest is in, where resilience begins, not fixing the cracks.
Hello everyone and welcome to Zest with me, Shel Marie, the podcast that takes you on a journey from the hustle to the harmony, fueling your passion whilst finding your peace. Today, as part of our beautiful pregnancy series, we're not only exploring the physical journey into motherhood, but also the emotional, spiritual, and transformative shifts that can happen along the way. So with that in mind, I am super excited to introduce my guest, Andréanne. She is a former social justice lawyer turned fantasy writer, healer, shamanic druidism practitioner, and priestess of the divine. Wow. Through her justice-rooted mysticism and sacred storytelling, she explores healing, divine union within, and the remembrance of our earth connection, inviting us to question what it truly means to become whole. Her work offers a unique perspective on transformation, intuition, and deeper layers of becoming, topics that can resonate profoundly throughout the whole journey of pregnancy and beyond. So even if you are not pregnant, please listen, or have not experienced pregnancy, please listen, because there's going to be many gems revealed today. I'm super excited to connect with her. And of course, if you feel called, share a little love by helping amplify my guest's voice by subscribing. It costs you absolutely nothing. Just click on the button that allows this powerful episode to reach many more hearts and minds. So if you've done so already, thank you. And may this episode bring you the clarity, courage, and a deep remembrance. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And just by reading your bio, which I know, as we spoke about before we push record, we are much more than a bio and a write-up. We are, the being, not the doing, and the labels. And so just thinking about that still, because I do feel that what we share sometimes really doesn't define, but it gives us insight to your journey. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, I just feel like you've been on such a beautiful journey, and anything you feel like you want to share from any point to any point that you think like that would benefit the listeners. I just think we really, especially from social justice, and I feel like I just have this intuitive feeling that that's really fed into a lot of what you're standing for today.
I think it's all about self-empowerment. That's what I'm most passionate about. It's like social justice, like, oh, and then you did all those things, and what's the link with social justice? It's like when you have that person in front of you that is struggling, struggling to just like their basic needs met, and are struggling against like governments that are oppressive with their laws and whatnot. This is about self-empowerment. This is about saying I matter, and what's happening to me matters, and I have the power to change it and reclaim what's mine. And that's what I'm doing still now. So like the link is still there.
and that's it, isn't it? It's almost like, again, the terminology has such an energy attached to it in like society. So like, I completely get what you're saying, because if you think, social, we are all a part of society. We are all a part of community. And justice, self-empowerment, of course. Beautiful. I'm just intrigued. So did you always have this deep inner knowing, or was it kind of when you were doing that side of the kind of social justice in your life, was there something that just went, oh, I want to go deeper than this, there's something much more here? Like, I feel like it ignited maybe a spark in you.
I think I always knew I would end up doing what I'm currently doing.
Wow.
And also the writing and all these things, I could always feel it. But when you're on your healing journey, right? Like it takes you places. And being that lawyer was also part of my own healing journey. It was like part of that reclaiming things and saying, oh, you know, I can help. And this is the way that I can help people elevate themselves and regain, like, you know, for those people I worked with, it was all about just getting dignity again, you know, like such basic things sometimes that, oh, okay, now I can help myself. I have this power in my life. So for me, it was like, somehow I knew that I would practice law like maybe 5 years, and I'm still like, you know, registered. Like if there's something like I'm very passionate about, I'm still open to work that. But I knew I would do it full time for 5 years, and that's exactly what I did, without like actually working the timelines in that way. And then I would, sort of go like alternative or whatever it is we call these things nowadays, you know. the wellness field, or you know, there's so many again tags and titles to describe it.
But I think that's beautiful that you've shared that, because I think that even in itself, for people listening, is, I think, you know, we you know, we're children, we grow up, and it's like these kind of policeman, teacher, whatever it is, and it's kind of like, that's what you do, that's it. And it really isn't. Like, life is so multifaceted if you really allow yourself to think beyond just the role or what someone's maybe said you're going to be good at. Because often we're very impressionable at younger ages, and we're kind of well, you know, that's lovely, but stick to this, you know, or or I think
stay on the safe side.
yeah like, I'm so thankful for teaching, and it really, I'm a very maternal person, and you know, they were like my babies during those 13 years each class, and even now when I see them and they're older and stuff, it's like, oh my gosh. But equally, it's like, not saying that I didn't do the right things. I believe we always do what we need to support us in whatever it is we're doing later in life. But I remember, like, being a very creative person, I always wanted to be an interior designer. I just love, like, I remember going to the Middle East and just being like a lot of people kind of like, all right, yeah, it's pretty, but I was like, no, like, every single sense is amplified right now. Your smell, your, like, the architecture, the furnishings. I was just in my element. And my friend was kind of like, yeah, it's beautiful, like, but I still have that, and I know I've infused that into my own environments and home. And I kind of feel like, if we're going to use the word alchemist, like, it's almost like that wabi sabi, where I'm able to take something and then always make it so much more beautiful than it is. I don't know, it's just something that I really And I
feel that so much from you. I think it describes very much. I think you bring a lot of that, and I think your podcast is so much about that. Even looking at your logo and everything, like, it's just like, yeah, definitely. You were talking like, yeah, she is doing that already.
But you see what I mean?
I'm sure.
Yeah, but I just remember that, you know, a particular influential person at the time in my life that I adored and looked up to was just like, if you're going to get in debt, because again, we don't understand this, I would do it for a job that's going to give you, like, you can actually, you know, do safety and
actual more gains, and you know.
Yeah, don't do it for art, you know, but it's much more than art. Like think, like,
it's our soul expression,
and you're creating an experience. Absolutely. And I see that now, but obviously as a, like, you know, 18-year-old or whatever, like, I was like, okay, I'll do what I think is the safest option, but there's no regrets, but it's ironic. So thank you so much for highlighting that, because, like, you've kind of, I never even saw it, but yeah, even in the way I create digitally, I'm still using that creative self-expression. So thank you for highlighting that.
And that's how it influences others, you know, like it's like your magic, like at work.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And so obviously with that in mind, and pregnancy, especially as right now my little love is not quite here yet, she's coming very, very, very soon. I would love to really talk about the womb, because I think I think again, and it's not this, it's not that, it's not right, it's not wrong, but I think again, most people only know what the main general society thing is of. And before we go into that, I would love your perspective on this, being a mother yourself. It's so interesting because when I was younger, before I kind of became more open to alternative ways of living and thinking, etc., I always saw childbirth very much about everything that happens to the mother, like my body, and you know, and it's going to be this experience for you. And you often hear all the negativity, but having been on my own journey is our journey, and I'm already a mother. And so like, even when, you know, even the word labor is just such a, like, when you think about it in the English language, it's
so industrious a word, right?
Yeah,
it belongs to the factory or something.
Exactly. And I think about this, and don't get me wrong, because, you know, there are some women that really, and the baby, that we never know what the experience will be. However, I choose, because I think we get a choice, I choose to see it as my baby's birthday, and I've prepared for that. I've already got her gifts, I've got her special outfit. And I'm not saying that people around me never thought that way, but I think they didn't really hear it to that level. And it wasn't, again, imposing that on someone, but for me from the start, it was our special day when she decides to come, and it's her birthday. It's her special day. And even with her being in my womb, which is why I would love to talk about that in a minute, there was a bit of a battle right at the start, and I'd love your take on this, because especially when I was doing podcasts and we're talking about the nervous system and things like that, and obviously I was speaking from the perspective of what I'm experiencing in pregnancy, but obviously I didn't want to share it with anyone because it was very private to me. And I think those conversations, like, if people listen back to them, were probably like, why was she crying all the time? Why was she talking about crying? Why was she like feeling all this, that, and the other? But I can tell from your laughing, it was so odd, because before she arrived in my body, I was very about seeing crying in a different way of release and stuff. But the moment she entered my body, I was so conscious that when I'm happy, she's happy. When I feel love, she feels love. And so even though, as you will know, it brings up everything. And so there were moments where I knew I was attaching to guilt, shame, or whatever it was, because things were coming up in me. And I wanted them up and out, but I was then feeling like, oh my gosh, she's feeling sad now because I'm sad. And it was such a process. Like, thank goodness it felt intense, like maybe a month or 2 months, but nearer the beginning. But yeah, I just love your take on that.
Yeah, they feel everything, and at the same time, it's a shared journey. And at the same time, they're also protected. So it's both at the same time.
Yeah.
So they can feel what we're feeling, and they can also be bubbled and in that space of like sort of like meditation. They're, you know, and the lineages that I work with, it's like if they're constantly like chanting mantras.
Yeah.
And you can chant them too, and you can help them feel those other vibration. And I totally, like, you know, I always imagine, like, from all the work I did, like, I was not always connected to my womb, you know. I was very much disconnected. That's like how, you know, like the your biggest womb becomes your biggest medicine in a way, right? I was very disconnected. For me, it was like a trauma to be a woman. Like, I didn't want to be one at all, and I was just like, why am I in this body?
So weird,
this is a curse. It prevents you from functioning in society. Like, everything is painful around it. What is this, you know? And then when we think of childbirth, like, you know, in French, we have this expression which is called, when childbirth comes, it's called briser les os, which O can mean both bones and water. So for me as a young child, listening like, oh yeah, she broke her bones, I was like, oh my gosh, she broke her bones.
Oh
That
my
sounds
gosh.
very horrible.
Yeah.
Eventually understood it was water. The term for it was water. But as a little girl, hearing the women talk, you're like, oh, that's,
Yeah.
I don't think I want to do that,
Yeah.
anyone.
No.
But, but it's funny, but it's also this process. And I think the more, I think like the way you approach it for yourself, I think shows a deeper connection already, right? Like you have this connection and you can want to protect her. And also we feel so much during pregnancy. You feel the whole world because you're just this open portal. Like some proverbs say, like you have like 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot in the life, like once you're pregnant. And it says, yes, it can be dangerous, but in the sense that you also are in between worlds. You're bridging worlds. You're bridging the spirit into the material world. And that's where you feel so much, and that's where your own things come up. And this soul is also working things with you.
Oh,
through
she's
you.
healed me so much through this pregnancy. Like
Yes,
things
it's
that
like-
I thought I was self-love, and like, for instance, I have dairy and gluten intolerance, and I was like, oh well, there's nothing else. I don't want to eat that. I only want to eat that, and I would realize that I was always bargaining, and then I'd say, oh, I'd have one, and then I would demolish all of it because I'm like, well, I've had one, I'll just eat them all now because I feel bleh. Whereas because I just knew, and the twisting and I didn't want anything to interfere with her receiving the nutrients she needed, it was not even negotiable. Like it was, and everyone felt that around me. Like there was not even any like peer pressure questioning, because it was just energetically, don't even go there. Like my baby is having everything that she needs, and so just think that's 9 months of healing, like real healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It takes you to the depths of your being, but that's what it does. It takes you to the depths of your own being. And at the same time, you're also processing the world and things around. Like I say oftentimes, like, yeah, you feel emotional because you feel the whole world.
Oh my
And that's
gosh.
why, like, I often suggest to be more mindful about how we keep our space and the kind of work we're doing and how we're doing it. Like I know actually a lawyer, she stopped doing criminal law when she was pregnant with her baby. She was like, I can't do that. This is insane. This is insane. And she just like snapped like out of it. And she's like, no, and now she became like a family lawyer. But it's how like transformative these things are. And their soul is also working their karmas through their mother. Before they're like out of the womb, you get the karma. So you're like working both your stuff and their stuff. You're like, whoa, I'm juggling a lot of things here.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so interesting because, like, if we talk about intrusive thoughts or something, really odd things have been coming up, which are not, and I know like thoughts can come in and I've learned now they're not all yours and you observe them, but there was some and they really come up and I was like, why are you thinking this? This is really odd. But instead of, again, becoming it or believing it, interesting that that's coming up right now. So yeah,
they have their medicine that you can also feel. So you can also feel like, for my son, he's like, his name means like he's very bright. And we had an elder seeing a vision of him, like he was like the sun rising on the dark night. And he, for his totem animal, he's the owl, so he navigates the shadows very well. And I thought, I'm a wolf, so I'm like, I'm comfortable with the shadows, Oh man, this pregnancy threw me in the depths of the underworld in a way that I was like, what is happening? Like, this was like, but it's his medicine because he navigates it like nothing, because it's the medicine he brings. He just brings the light through these shadows, But like, I felt I was dragged through it, like, oh, I'm not as light as you, I'm not like, I'm not as capable as you, but he drags me through it because we're one in that instance, and his birth story was everything like that. He's like that warrior of light. And so I'm sure like your daughter is also showing her medicine and her soul mission through the pregnancy and through the birth. She will also tell you many things about it through that.
Oh my gosh, like and again, it's not saying the typical men are stronger and stuff, but I was convinced she was a boy. Like those kids, like I found out at 2 months, and I remember I've got my placenta on the front as well, so it was like all the research, you're not going to feel anything until and I just took it, didn't let it plan, and just felt into my body, and I was like, no, it was 11 weeks, and I was like, no, I can feel her. It was like tickles, like feathers, and then it was like like kicks, like even on her 20-week scan, she looks like she's sunbathed and she's got these long, luscious legs. And I was like, this is a lemon. This is a lemon. And she was just like lying there, like then she was back flipping and kicking. And I was like, this is a boy. This is a boy. And then yeah, it was my little girl, and so I just know she has this very powerful soul. Like
energy.
Even like the heartburn that I had, it's like a dragon was living in me, like breathing fire. Like I was trying to do a podcast yesterday and I said, I'm so sorry. Like this, I was just like a breathing dragon. And the senses, you touched on this earlier, like I remember even before, like someone would be really far away from me and I could smell their breath. And I'm like, I really do not want this superpower right now. It's not nice. So protecting your energy and be like, I can't deal with this right now. Nope, I need to be in my own energy.
Yes, I think women can become so intuitive at this time, and it's always very beautiful to hear the stories that women have, like, you know, people you don't really think are necessarily intuitive or, you know, have developed that aspects of themselves, because I think everyone has it, and they tell you about their pregnancy and their birth and you're like, there you see, everyone, you can do this.
And it's so interesting you just shared about in French the water and the bones, because again, this is not for everyone, but just intuitively, I knew from our own journey that every time we were in the water, I just sensed like she's very water baby, and that she felt like I noticed I'm calm, she's calm, and it was a non-negotiable. Sorry, see her.
There's a dragon.
She's like, I'm here. It was like a non-negotiable. I was like. And then, you know, you hear and they're like, oh, there's only 2 birthing pools, and I'm just was like, no, it's going to happen. And then I asked go to the direct source, and they're like, oh, every room has a deep bath. I'm like,
there you go.
Happy days.
There you go.
You know, like sometimes think outside the box and just know that what you want is going to happen. And yeah, I just knew that we really needed to be near water, and water's very important to me as well. And just follow that. Don't let anyone, just for the people listening, don't let anyone tell you you can't. Because essentially, like with everything in life, if you believe what someone says, and of course there are emergencies, there are, you know, things that people are saying for the highest good of all. But if you just feel in your body that, no, I don't want that experience, I know what I want, go for what you want.
I know that, you know, you have, again, like we're talking about empowerment, like especially sometimes like preparing for birth and knowing the options and preparing for all options and knowing what are your steps of choices in any given option and researching them before you get in that situation, because in that situation you will not want to think about it. You just want to be with the process that's happening. You're like bridging, you know, your portal in that instance. Like you have got a big job to do. You don't want to be distracted with like, oh, this is the option here, this is the option. Make it a plan, already know in advance how you would like things to go in A, B, C. You can change your mind. That's absolutely okay. And bring the tools, but make the research about what are these possible interventions, when should they be needed or not, and discuss it with your partners, your birth partners, you know, which could be a doula or, you know, a friend or someone else that would assist you, because a lot can happen then, and you just want to be present with the process, because it's a very magical process. It can be intense, it can be life-changing, it can be orgasmic, like all of it is possible. You know,
and thank you so much for touching on that, because again, it was a gift from another podcast guest that I had, and she basically, because again, it was, you know, it's always kind of said that it's going to be, and I'm 100% not saying that, like I've not gone through the process yet, but that is it, you know, it's labor, it's tiring, it's going to be hard, it's going to destroy your body, you know, all these things. And she's I say like
that's how we bring, you know, that's how we're raised, like even like anything in the movie or TV, like
and like the greatest gift is coming. Like, do you know, I'm the biggest I've ever been, but I love my bump, because my bump is the home of my baby. Why would I, you know, I'm not supposed to be like looking how I'm looking beforehand, because this is her home right now. And she wants, a mansion. She has a mansion. At the moment, she is going for a little bit more of a kind of a chalet, but I'm still eating the same. She's still the same size as what she's supposed to be. There's no like, but sorry to get distracted. So she provided me with this book, and basically you touched on the word orgasmic. And again, it's so interesting that is not something that anybody ever talks about. And I remember the first thing, because I just sometimes not reading it from start to finish, I just wanted to open it and see what came up, and that came up straight away. And it was said that the woman was saying, like, I actually, oh my gosh, I feel, and she was shamed. She was made to feel like that there was something wrong with her. But this is why, again, knowledge is key. Obviously, like, just that awareness.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, because
it's like learn everything you can about each phase and know what you can see, know the things, learn like which positions you would like to try, and have again like the people that will assist you to help you. Oh, maybe you want to try a new position. If you feel stuck at some point, try a new position.
Yeah,
all fours, move around. Like, you're not supposed to, and even if you need like IVs and whatnot, there's still things that are possible around that realm, and ask for them and request them, because there's so much power. This is a sexual process. It came through a sexual process, and birth is a sexual process. It's how you feel safe and open is how more easily you can deliver your baby, because the same atmosphere you want to open to a sexual partner is the same way you would open to birth. So it's deeply intimate. So dim the lights,
experience,
go inside, just and work through the things. Like, if there are fears that come, just look at them. You don't have to lose yourself in them. Acknowledge them and let them go. And just, that's why, like, preparing meditation and these kind of practices can help. But these are just like the containers around like how it's a sexual process, but people are shaming women when they're like getting to it, sometimes accidentally, and sometimes no, I want to make this, and I'm taking like even like sometimes a vibrator to their birth, and they're like, I'm gonna when it's very intense, I'm kicking this on and I'm bzzz away, and that's okay. And but some doctors, some nurses or midwives are still like, whoa, what's happening here, and just reclaim it for yourself.
When you think about
body opening itself,
absolutely.
we think about the goddess giving birth, like as like the creatrix of all things, always creating things in pain. I doubt it, like I heavily doubt it, because there would be no joy in the world.
No. And again, you just touched on something so beautiful, because it's so interesting how a woman being like in pain, screaming, making a very traumatic experience, and it's again saying, there's not no right or wrong, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, no, I feel comfortable with that. Why would we feel comfortable with a woman basically like in so much pain? And it's like, oh no, this is normalized, this feels good to me. But the moment she's kind of wow, it's like, oh no, that's too much. But she's already got everything on show and everything's there.
Exactly. She's just there. But and again, there's some providers that are super supportive of it and are beautiful in helping women access that part of themselves, because this is a part of ourselves that is the primal goddess. Like this is like the raw, like like I see the lioness coming through these women, and it's just like roaring the baby into the world, like, and sometimes it's with that orgasm, and sometimes with sheer determination, and it has many shapes, and sometimes it is a belly birth, for some reason, and that's okay too. And all of these are and trusting the soul of our baby, I think, because their soul always know how they're coming into the world. And I want to say that to the women out there that sometimes are grieving a birth that might not have been as planned. And trusting the soul of our baby, knowing what their mission comes, is also, and to any mother that I talk to, like the birth story of their baby, you can see the personality, the mission, what they're coming to heal, and that's the treasure of your, like what you gave the world is the medicine of your child. however it went,
Absolutely.
So just trusting that, and like things are going in another way, that's not how you planned it, that's not what you wanted, and yet this is here. Trust your
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
That's what they're going for. If they didn't want that, they wouldn't go for it. So it's
I
just a
believe.
different way, because they birth themselves as well. Like they kick, like on a vaginal birth, they kick the uterus to push down, like they're also working very hard.
Yeah, yeah. And like I kind of said recently to some people, I was like, again, when we take it from it always being about us and like, oh gosh, that baby, and it's like the process the baby has to go through. I think I'm not saying we get the better deal, but I don't know about you, I don't want to be squashed in a very small tunnel.
Can you imagine your head?
And then like all of a sudden lights like beaming on me, like
Cold light.
what happened?
I know. And I think that's the first, and again, it reminds me of like coming how we have, I would say, I want to say like an epidemic, but at the same time, I think we just socialize that way. Like so many women are disconnected from our power center, which to me is our womb. This is our creative center. Like we might not even be mothers in the sense of physical, but we're always mothers because we're always creating.
Yes,
we're co-creating
yes.
this world constantly, and that link and that connection we can have with our womb can change so many things. And so sometimes we just thought that it's either to make a baby or not, so if you don't want to, just get rid of it, or like or just put it on sleep, like with just pills, or medication, so it doesn't disturb the rest of your life, where you basically just function as a man with the only hormones of like the sleep cycle, and that's it, like a circadian rhythm, and you ignore that other cycle, which has so much medicine. And I think in birth, it also asks us for that, like the pregnancy and birth process also asks us where we are at with our womb, and then sometimes there's like this feelings of maybe resentment or betrayal when the womb does not necessarily open. But if you've never felt safe as a woman, how could it open? I'm going to birth the most precious thing I have, and you're asking me to open when you don't feel it's safe. It's just like making this process of and it doesn't mean like sometimes you can also have done so much of that work in meeting those fears, and still it might not happen the way we want it. And again, it's to trust the soul of our baby. But I think in birth, like if you never like even know what the cervix does, and then suddenly like open and do this, and you never even know about your own morphology and how it is so like the vagina and the cervix are so connected to the voice, and how it's basically the same anatomy, the same design. Like you're talking about interior design, this is the same interior design, and how they connected. And we should like voice, and that's why like sometimes like I have this Spanish midwife, sometimes she's like, those women that don't scream, they don't open, use your voice. Like it's just that connection and being embodied again as women, and being in those places that are feeling maybe less comfortable. And that's the work for the other generation. So anyway, I want to put that out, that connection is such a key for bringing those souls. And it doesn't mean that we didn't do it well if it doesn't go as planned, or it's just again like that nature, like maybe we're trying to transmute like many generations of that center being stuck or holding so much trauma and things, and that's the gentle work. And maybe it's like in the next generation, if your birth didn't go as planned, well, maybe it's because your daughter or your sons will not carry this on, like you just already opened. So it's just to really honor all the paths and all the different ways in which it manifests. But I think the connection is such a beautiful way to help move that energy.
Absolutely, so beautifully expressed. And I think even for people listening that are not pregnant, not going through it, not having it, I think that applies so beautifully, equally what you've just talked about the womb to what you are creating. And it's so interesting that a lesson that I realized that I just did not learn, but through this sacred time of being pregnant and really just knowing from the start, then obviously people around me, but socially, like online, I just knew I didn't want energies in my sacred time with my baby and growing her and bringing her into the world. And that's obviously why, even though I'm pregnant right now, we're releasing this afterwards. And and it's not because there was fear around it, or that, you know, I didn't want to answer anything to do with anyone else's opinions. It was nothing about anyone else. It was about something that was very special to me. And it's so interesting because I realized that my whole life I always overshared, got super excited about things. And I'm not saying they didn't then come into physical form, but they didn't always come the way I wanted them to. Or I would then have other people planting seeds or opinions, projections from their own, whatever it is they thought and feel. And so she's really taught me that no, you can. When there's something really special happening in your life, you can, and actually it makes it even more special the more you nurture it and you pour into it and you believe in it and you build your mindset first, and then once you feel it's secure and it's ready, then you birth it. And not talking about it having to be a child, but for people with ideas, projects, for people listening, birth it. But sometimes discernment is key to really get that beautiful energy.
And even that aspect we're talking about, feeling safe when you want to birth a physical baby. Like, you want to feel safe when you birth any projects. And you want to be like, especially as women, and I think men still have like that feminine aspect, but especially as women, how can we use that creative center connected to it, and like anything seed that we put in there can just boom out into the material world, because that's the portal. It bridges like the metaphysical into the material. That's a portal. And it's not just for humans to come through, like souls. It's for anything. You do magic from that place. It's a great point of magic. So any project, or any, like, it's a business, or it's a foundation, a charity, whatever it is, it can have that same, nurtured aspect. It's a ceremony in many ways, right? Like birth, pregnancy, many women just intuitively go in a sort of ceremony. But these projects that you take inside yourself to manifest in the world has its own kind of ceremony. And that sense of safety, do you have sometimes you can it's like an exercise, like just like, where are you at? Where are you feeling? Are you lacking the support you might need? Go and get it. Like, where do you lack being held to really birth this from your feminine? Where do you lack that masculine, which you might have inside of you, which you might require from the world outside, just asking for support? Maybe it's women giving you that support, and just being held in what you want to bring forth in the world. And where are you feeling safe to do that? And not just being in that masculine of like, this is, I need to drill in all these tasks every day, and this is how it's going to come to be. It is. But also, how can we be in that feminine, that creativity, that creatrix energy that brings things in a much more flowy way, and we can like merge them together, and that's the inner union, right? And that's the, we don't have to hustle so much. Like, we do that energy work. It's like comes with our masculine that is more like society wise, like the more the plan things, the steps, the very clear steps of building something, and also that energy that comes in. So it's for all of us.
Absolutely.
To reclaim and use.
And again, you so beautifully touched on such a powerful thing that I'm reflecting on just from my own journey of, I had to really learn to receive, because I was traveling, I didn't have a home in the sense I was jumping. I was very happy with the way my life was. I was building my business, my visions. Does that mean that the financial side of it was all established and everything? Did I have everything in place, set? No. And I'm happy to admit that. So, but I also knew in that moment when I saw my little bean on that screen, that I already said yes. I already chose her. I already cherished her, and she was already mine. And no matter what was going to come or enter into my life, and how I was going to be perceived, or what it was going to look like, I said yes to her, and I had to trust the process, almost blind. And then to even that, in a process of like going from then all of a sudden so many people supporting you and receiving, was almost like from someone that was very independent, traveling the world, making my own choices. Not saying I wasn't receiving, but I had to really allow people to pour into me and receive. And yeah, I just think even that in itself was just such a beautiful experience to have. So
And I think I definitely got that lesson too for mine, and especially in the postpartum. Postpartum, you're holding, you're still bridging worlds, you're still that open portal, and yet, like, and then there's, I think it's both. You know, you have like, yes, the hormones that are, you're going through all sorts of things, but also you're coming back from a big journey, like you journeyed to bring your baby earthside. It doesn't matter which way you went about the journey, whether it was vaginal or belly birth, it didn't matter. You still had to journey. And coming back from that, and then having this person that depends fully on you. And then suddenly you depend on others, you know? And that's if you don't want to burn out too, like taking care of that postpartum place. It's such a learning for me. It really prepared me for motherhood. Because mothers thrive in villages and thrives in the support of other women, not, you know, removing ourselves from that competition, from that comparison, and really being in that support of one another, in that, you know, goddess loving care for one another. And that's how we just thrive, and that's how our babies thrive, and that's how society thrives. And we can do this again with old projects, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, so beautifully put. It's an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I'm sure we could keep talking and talking, but I want to be really conscious of the time as well. But it's incredible, isn't it? Because I really thought I connected to my feminine energy before, like, because I realized I was very much functioning most of my life very masculine, and like, no, I hold my bag, I can do it, and again, I believe, and it's not the fault of anyone, but I was surrounded by so many very strong, again, those terms, strong, independent women, and so that's all I kind of knew. But it's so interesting that the things that I almost, because I didn't know about how our body softens as well, so even holding your handbag for a long period of time, like, you know, I can hear people in my ears like, it's a handbag, but no, it does, like, you get very tired because you're building a baby. And so even if I went in to buy just some bananas, I would always get the trolley and put my handbag in it. No, I'm not carrying everything, I'm tired. And I know now that I will continue that. No, why was I being like a donkey? Like, why when there's support there, whether it's a person, it's an object, it's whatever, why did I feel the need to, who was I proving that to? That, no, I'll hold my bag and I'll hold everything and I can do it.
I'm the independent woman that can do it all. You know?
Yeah, no. And so I'm so thankful, like, I'm just so thankful that I've not only learned how to receive, but also to be much, much more kinder to myself and loving to myself. Even, yes, I know you can do it, but you don't have to do it. There's a difference.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Wow.
And how to tend to our needs better. Like, you know, in pregnancy, you might be like, oh, I need to drink the water. I cannot go dehydrated. Oh, I need to eat. And if we learn to do this through motherhood, it's really about honoring ourselves. And that also shows the children as we go on, like, we matter, like this temple matters, like how I care for my energy matters, of how I show up for you, and you know, everything else in our lives, what we're building as a family and so on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And even if we don't, you know, and I want to touch on that, because sometimes I feel that disconnect or that wound sometimes, if people needed, you know, their womb removed for a reason or another, and they feel like, oh, maybe I'm less feminine, or is there like something missing? And it's always there energetically. Or sometimes I hear it from menopausal women, like, oh, and then what do? You know, and this is like, okay, let's just talk about menopause for just 1 second. Like, this is the most powerful time for a woman. You stop having like the ebbs and flow of like hormones all around, and you just become this powerhouse, because your womb is just like, can just hold everything. Like, it doesn't go through its own cycles of like high fire, high water, high fire, it's just a powerhouse that's just there. And you know, that's the most powerful human being on earth are women after menopause. Okay, let's just say it. Like, this is like goodness. Astounding. So the journey always just keeps getting better.
And just because you touched on that, would you say, because I feel like, again, it's not making assumptions for everybody, but I feel like the version, particularly of our mother that we experienced, it's like the version of how she is, even prior to the grandchildren, just the energy of waiting for the grandchildren. If I'm now thinking with what you've just expressed, that's very interesting, because it's not like it's my mother's a new woman, but she's just very different, and so, again, so balanced, so soft, but also it's like, if you want to call God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is pouring so much into my mother so she can pour into us. And it's
yes, they become such
beautiful.
powerhouses, and that's how, you know, like our villages are held by grandmothers. And how can they do it? Is because they don't have this cycling, and they just channel this creative force that they just hold all the time and support the rest, even though, like, you know, technically their body are growing weaker or have less muscle or whatever.
Again,
you know,
like, take what you want,
power
people.
that comes out. Exactly, like you can still grow strong your whole life. And it's it's just to name how powerful we are, and we keep getting
like it's just so interesting, because like I remember like bows and frills and things like that. My mum used to be like, "Oh," but she's literally like, you're getting these little Minnie Mouse outfits, like little frilly things, and she's like, "She's gonna look so cute," and I'm like, is this the same woman? But I'm like, but that is me, you know. I want my child to look like that. But it's just like, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to see. And
and it brings, and it's a healing for those generations when they didn't maybe not have, or feel like they didn't have the same options as we do, right? So like it's, and sometimes they make their choices eventually are, you know, like, oh yeah, I had always the power and I could change things, but you know, society was different, so like it was not as obvious maybe as now, for sure. And that is also their healing, and then they're expanding and then returning that to us, and this all our healing, like it's just it's tremendous.
And I know I touched this a little bit on the with the previous guest for the pregnancy series, but the appreciation and love that you realize your mother went through to bring you into the world, you like, I really don't think, like, there's two things that I really don't think you can really comprehend that until you go through it yourself. And second of all, what really a woman goes through building, this is what I think people miss out on. We're building life in our womb. Like,
hello.
It's
It's just the everyday thing. It's a miracle. You know, it's a miracle in and of itself. It
really
blows our mind.
What and thank you so much for today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I know that regardless at what point the views are on, male, female, because I think even male, you know, it's nice to hear from a female's perspective. I feel like so many people are going to just get so many different gems just linked to their own life, pregnant, not pregnant, mother, not mother, whatever. Really, thank you so much. And
you're welcome. Thank you for doing this.
And just before you go, it doesn't have to be linked to anything we just say, but I always say at the end of Zest, if there's something someone in this very moment would really benefit from hearing, what would you tell them?
Connecting to our power as women is a process. It's not, and like I have tears when I talk about that, because it's funny, I'm just like starting to write a book that is a fantasy book, but it's very much about the fall of the goddess in the old temples, and how like the priestesses and whatnot. So it's like how the wounded feminine came to be. And reclaiming our power as women is just, it's not like overnight, you know, it's like a lot of gentleness. It's a process, one step at a time, and a lot of grace for ourselves, shedding those layers of guilt, those layers of shame, of pain, of trauma, of those that were carried on before us. These are not us, they're not our identity, and they can be shed and at our own rhythm. It's not a race, and it's a gentle process, really leaning into our feminine to do this work of reclaiming that feminine power. is a gentle process that flows and takes us on our own journey. And sometimes pregnancy and birth is part of it. Sometimes it's after, sometimes it's before, sometimes it might never occur at the same time. But it's just trusting that process and being very like receiving that divine, that great mother's love for ourselves, and really walking that path with a lot of gentleness. And just, you know, like let's be real, like shame and guilt are not even like known or innate emotions.
Yeah.
They're taught, they're like imprinted in us, so they're so foreign to us, and yet I know they can hold so much power, especially on women, especially in our life force, you know, our sexual power. So this is how we can be very gentle with ourselves and allow the process to unfold the way it wants, and not go faster than it wants to be, and allow ourselves to be with those parts that might feel the wounds and the hurt, but also letting them flow and go in the water again, right? The water is flowing with the water, releasing them in the water.
Beautiful. And I think you can just linking it back to the pregnancy series, I think you can really see that when the first time a baby looks at themselves in the mirror, they don't look at themselves and pick at themselves, they go, wow.
Is that all, right?
Yeah. And so that shows, you know, it's all taught, it's all, you know, don't be too full of yourself, don't be too this, don't be too that. And it's not saying, you know, you then do it in a way that's like, you know, kind of putting your fingers up to the rest of the world of this is me and I don't care. No. But equally, we have this one person for the rest of our lives. We deserve to honor her, respect her, love her, or him if you're a male, and give them the best life that they can. And
none of us are forsaken, you know, none of us are forsaken. We are all loved, and finding that love for ourselves and for that world and how we belong in that world is the medicine. That's how we basically change the world.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. And of course, all your details will be in the description. So anyone watching this, you can just, you don't need to sell. You can just feel her beautiful goddess energy. And even if you want to reach out, even to express gratitude or ask a question, feel free, because yes,
the conversations are healing in themselves, right?
Absolutely. All the seeds are beautifully planted. Thank you. And you've been an exceptional guest, and thank you for closing this pregnancy series. What a blessing.
So exciting.
That's the magic that Zest is in.